As we all know, tomorrow. So as we all know, tomorrow the 14th February, which is commonly celebrated as Valentine's Day. The singles in the would say it's not in a public holiday, but those who are in serious relationships know how important this day is. And we thought as KICTANet, what more timely day would this be to discuss this? Because we are approaching Valentine's Day, in talk they say the pressure increases. So there's a lot of pressure on social media, to be in a romantic relationship, to go on that getaway, holiday or vacation with your romantic partner. There's that pressure to, especially on the side of women, to receive gifts. I don't know if that pressure is usually with the men. I would love to know. Maybe they can put it on the chat function. I don't know if men are also usually eager to spend gifts and and to showcase their love to their partners. From what I've seen, and of course I'm speaking from a woman's perspective, usually it's the woman who anticipates to get chocolate, to get roses, to get a gift, etc. And so with this pressure, like you've just known the whole past 12 months you've been single, but then you're like, okay, what could possibly happen in a week? And then you decide, you know what, let me try downloading a dating app, whether it's Tinder or Bumble, and hopefully I could match with someone, and that would be our happily ever after, and we'll tell our kids and grandkids that we met on Valentine's Day, right? But then as this is happening, a lot of issues also arises. You have seen stories of so many women who met their romantic partners on dating apps, on social media, and they meet in an Airbnb, and before we know it, someone has been stabbed, their bodies have been cut into pieces, and their lives have been cut short. Some of these and romantic engagements are financial scams that you find that, partners are using that to emotionally blackmail their partners so that you can send them money. And I could go on and on and on. Lives have been lost, money has been lost, reputation has been lost. You just genuinely and innocently send your intimate photos or videos with this person. Even it could be someone you actually did not meet on the social media, but because you're dating and you're chatting on WhatsApp or Telegram, you send them your intimate photos, and then things go south. And what do? They share your intimate photos on social media to embarrass you, to spoil your reputation. And now every time someone searches your name when you're applying for a job, what they see, the first thing on their search is that intimate photo. And so this is what this webinar is about. In this current day and age, how can we navigate love on social media? How can we find partners? I know people who have found love on Tinder, and they're married 10 years down the line, they have kids. We have success stories. And so here we're not here to discourage that, but rather to say, as we're doing this, how can we protect our data? How can we protect our dignity and our finances? So today's session is going to be moderated by myself, Valarie Waswa, legal fellow at KICTANet, as well as Neema, Mujesia, who is the communication officer at KICTANet. And without wasting much time, I would just like us to dive into these topics so that it can even help us as we're trying to find love, because I believe that love is a beautiful thing. So without further ado, I would just like to give it over to Neema. And Neema Mujesia is going to address the question or the topic, digital love or digital or deceptive illusion. What is the psychology behind online dating? What are some of these tricks that these people use so that they can trick your mind, or they can capture your mind emotionally and psychologically, and use love to, to their advantage and to your disadvantage? So without further ado, over to you, Neema. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. I hope you can hear me. Really glad to be here and to be part of this session today. Good afternoon, everyone. It's actually a pleasure to be here, just discussing the topic of love in the digital age. In a world where online connections are becoming, I can say, increasingly common, it's essential for us to be able to understand and to learn the risks, how to navigate, especially the digital landscape safely. So I'll just share my screen on my end so that I begin my presentation. It's just a slide presentation on what we need to expect. So as I mentioned, my name is Neema Mujesia. I'm the communications person. Also, I work in the Gender and Digital Rights Program, which is part of KICTANet. For KICTANet, we are a multi-stakeholder think tank for people and organizations who are interested in the internet space. And why do we speak about such topics? It's part of a pillar that we do stand by, which is mostly on capacity building and policy advocacy, whereby we look into issues to do with gender. Now, for this one, I really like to highlight that we are not only focusing on women, but men as well. As my colleague has said, these experiences that we are facing in regards to challenges we are facing online while dating are not only prone to the ladies alone. There are also catfishing scams that are there that are prone to, both genders. So we are going to get into that. So on to my introduction now. We know that online dating has become increasingly prevalent, whereby now how people meet romantic partners has changed. There's a vast pool of potential matches, and this is accessible through dedicated apps. And I do insist these apps are really dedicated and platforms whereby you see that people are making it easier to connect, are finding it easier to connect through social circles. Now, but because of this, it has introduced a lot of challenges like superficial interactions, swiping culture, and also it has heightened the expectations that whereby people are now curating profiles all over. And this is something that we've seen. Although online dating some has worked, but we have seen the rise of how this platform has been. Now, this is just a summary of the rise of digital platforms, especially in relationships, from the year 1990 to the year 2025. Now, this source is from KPSOS, is actually a source that I use here and there just to see how the timeline has been on how people have been using the internet over time. Now, there are various ways which people use the internet, not only in relationships, but also in viewing videos and getting online marketing platforms. There are very many things people do on these platforms. Now, this is just the global overview of what we have seen over the years. Now, this is a global overview of 2025 that was done by Metapol. So we are at now 5.56 billion users as per 2025. And this is just to show you that the internet is evolving, and not only is it being used for marketing purposes, something that has come is that vast pool whereby people are now getting into digital relationships. Now, why should we talk about this? I'm answering the question on the need. Why are digital platforms there? Because digital platforms are actually accessible and convenient. What do you mean by accessible? Customers find it a way to use. They find it obtainable. They can find it's very easy. And why is it convenient? It's because it meets the needs, preferences, style, and lifestyles. Now, onto my right, you can see some of the apps that there's Occupy, there's Tinder, there's Jaumo, there's Bado, there's Grinder. These are all dating apps. I'm so sure some of you have come across. There's Meet Me, and these online dating apps actually are prone to doing a lot of what do I call them, advertisements also on social media. You use by use of ads so that people can get to connect. Now, I need to explain why convenience and accessibility of this platform, because 24/7 availabilities, users can be able to access these services around the clock. Remote access, you don't need to be physically visit the location to access any service. So this means that while you're getting onto your digital platform, it has now become a norm, whereby it's not a must to meet the person for them to be intimately connected to them. So we also have personalized experience. These digital platforms have been tailored whereby the content is not only based on user data preferences, but it is based on relevant experiences that most of people have. We also have, it has seamless integration. So we are just trying to understand how these digital platforms come to be. So there's seamless integration, there's quick search navigation, there's also digital payments, and also, as we said, there's connection. Now, one thing we need to know is that while digital platforms promote connections, they also expose us to user risks. So I think that is me answering the first question that Valerie has asked. So back to you, Valerie. Thank you.
Thank you, Neema. Thank you for that question. And maybe we can move to the next aspect now that you have laid that foundation and the sources have shown that we have 6.5 billion users on social media. How can we be able to spot the red flags on online dating? How can someone be able to see this and know that something is questionable about how I'm engaging with this person on Tinder or even on Instagram direct message or on Twitter direct message or even on WhatsApp? What are these telltale signs of romance scams, catfishing scams? First of all, even there are people who are here and I'm sure they don't understand what does even catfishing means. Does it mean a cat that is also a fish? How can you protect yourself from financial exploitation? There are people most people, when you love, you just want to chop your money. You want to show how much you love this person by giving them money. How can you avoid that? And also, maybe you can address what are these strategies that manipulators use to manipulate the emotions of these victims and defraud them on these online dating platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie, for your questions. They actually touch base to what I was going to present next. So, first of all, you need to understand, as you've said, it's not a matter of, you're just going to use these platforms for dating. You need to understand why people are vulnerable first to these platforms. So, there's the feeling of loneliness, there's just the desire for compassion. There are also some emotional triggers that point to this. Now, emotion often leads to cloud judgment. That is something we need to understand. Yes, we're all human beings. We get into these platforms prepared, and you are just there on a Tinder and saying, I'll just get my perfect match. Like nowadays, I see most ladies rely on Europeans who are visiting Kenya just to get, that European love, what I mean. So this makes people susceptible to becoming in a way that they are being used. So what I mean is individuals become very vulnerable for just saying that I'm lonely and I desire compassion. So it's also psychological, as you've mentioned, when it comes to online dating. So on to the next is the common online dating scams. We have catfishing. Now, for catfishing, this is where someone uses a fake identity to trick you into believing you are the real online friendship, into believing in a real online friendship or a romantic one. So necessarily, it doesn't mean it should be very romantic. It can be just another person who maybe likes your posts every now and then texts you in your DM and asks you, how are you, my friend? From there, a conversation generates. It's not necessarily romantic, but now why we do relate it to a romantic portion is because catfishing has become known for various romantic scammers. It's a way they use. So that's why we are relating it to this context. Now, we also have the use of fake profiles where cyber fraudsters create social media profiles using identities like names, addresses, and mails. Now, during this week, I was able to just see a post on social media. It was about a man. Now, the man was complaining on social media. He was saying, I found my wife's phone and the case was on cheating. Now, when the man followed through to know who she was cheating with, the man could hardly identify the person because the person used an anonymous profile. So this is part of something that online dating scammers use. And to add salt to the wound is that this fake profile user actually scammed the lady. So there's no way of getting to know who really this person is. So that is part of it. So we also have romance scammers, whereby romance, how do you know a romance scammer? Is a person who's rushing into decision, creating fabricated stories to gain empathy. They're also requesting for money or gifts, avoiding in-person meetings. They use fake photos, they use fake identities, claiming to be, they also claim to be in an unusual position where you just have to aid them. So that's part of a scamming strategy that that is happening right now, especially during this age and time. The jobs are not there for the youth. Now people are now getting into this sort of scamming schemes when it comes to online dating. Now it's key to know that scammers often impersonate worthy people to manipulate victims. Now, what are the red flags to watch for? Quick declarations of love, requests for money, refusal to meet in person, inconsistent details in their stories. So their stories don't match who they are. So somebody will tell you, I am a banker, I do this and this and this. It might be a lady or a male. And then when you go to their social media handle, there's nothing about them that do that. So you really need to have an investigative sort of perspective when you are getting into, these online dating platforms. Over personal questions. They do ask a lot of questions that are over personal. So it is important for victims to be aware of these red flags before they fall for them. Also have the last but not least, emotional manipulation tactics. So they use flattery, sympathy stories. They also have an agency to manipulate victims. Mostly it's financial fraud tactics. They fake emergencies or investment opportunities. Now, this is an emotional manipulation that creates a false sense of trust and urgency. Thank you, Valarie.
Thank you so much, Neema. Wow. I was just taking mental notes as you're talking because some of these red flags are kidogo beige, and when you're in love and someone is affirming you and saying sweet things to you, you can easily overlook these things. So at this juncture, I can see virtual laughter because you can relate. I would like us to also now talk about, now that we've been able to understand what is catfishing, what is creating fake profiles and identity theft and financial fraud and all that. The question then becomes, how can we practically protect ourselves online from these dating scams? Because really, I would like us to take this with all the urgency it deserves, because we live in Kenya and you know what has been happening in Airbnbs. Women date a man online. Sometimes it could be someone they know, someone they don't know. And once they meet with in this Airbnb, you're forced to give your bank password, your credit card details, everything is ripped out of you. And they do that as they torture you. Sometimes they stab you to death until they rip you of all your money, and then they kill you so that there is no evidence. So it is really, really important that we take this with the seriousness that it deserves, because it is a life or death situation, quite literally. So at this juncture, allow me to take you through the next session on safety precautions. How can you practically protect yourself? And then the second part of that is going to be the legal remedies. What are the avenues in Kenya that you can seek recourse when these things happen? So I will start first of all by talking about practical steps. So first of all, as a data protection officer, I always say guard your personal information. Your personal information is your sword, it's your power. And as a sword is double-edged sword. So whether you're meeting with someone on Tinder, you're meeting with someone on Instagram, please do not share your phone number. I don't know if many of you know this, but if you save someone's phone number, even if you don't share your, let's say, TikTok page with them or your user account on Instagram, just because you've saved the phone number and you use that phone number to create an account on Instagram, your account gets suggested to them. So you see how sensitive a phone number is. A phone number is linked to your banking apps. A phone number is linked to your M-Pesa apps, your bank apps, so many things. Someone can use your phone number to get your details on your email, and it's a whole chain. So when you've met someone on these online meeting apps, you can chat on them there. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, these platforms have messaging apps. You can even video chat them there. So when someone is quick to ask for your phone number, kindly do not do that. Secondly, still on personal information, kindly do not share details of where you stay. So for example, if someone asks you, where do you stay? And you live, let's say, in Rongai. Okay, Rongai is not even Nairobi County. Okay, so let's say you live in Rongai. Just tell them you live in Kajiado County. You don't need to go to the details of Shell petrol station and giving them landmarks and giving them streets and giving them details that they can use to even stalk you down and, even send goons to come and track you down and start blackmailing you. You should also, like on social media, both on dating apps and even just mainstream social media, when you're posting your photos, kindly do not share photos that include information that someone can trust to you. There's something called cyber stalking, and there are people who are expert FBI. They can search your whole online presence in 5 hours, and they know a whole biography of your life, from who are your parents, where do you work, where do your children live, where do they study. So let's say if you have kids and there's logos on their sweater, you just don't want to do that, because when you post that photo, I see nowadays, especially with social media influencers, they always blur that logo, because you don't want to give them any linking information that they can use to track you down. You're also not supposed to be sharing information around where you go to the gym, to which church do you go to, because any link can be used to track you down. Another one is, kindly do not share intimate photos with these people. And dare I say, even sometimes, even if you're dating this person, you've met them, intimate photos is a very murky area, because you're in love, this person trusts you, and most times it's usually you share your intimate photos and videos with them, they never do the same on their end. And so what happens is, when love turns sour and things go left, they will use these photos to post it on social media. It's going to be very embarrassing. The internet never forgets. Sometimes you will never be compensated for the damage it has done to you psychologically, even for years to come. So just please put your phones and cameras out of the bedroom. Another thing I can say is, do not quickly connect with someone do not connect with someone who does not look like they are over 18 and above. So I will tell you a story. There's someone very close to me that I know who started dating a girl. It's a man. So Boychild Muskie Kabisa started dating a girl online, and they would post photos and everything. And then it turned out that this girl is actually a minor, is around 16, 17 years. And the parents are very conservative parents, and they were so mad at this, because some of the photos they were taking were very suggestive and very provocative. What did they do? They reported this man to the police, and the man was tried, and everyone tried to listen and sit down and have an out-of-court settlement with the family. But once that matter goes into police, and it's minor, it's a minor, it's not even, the criminal matters cannot be settled out of court. So this man ended up serving 4 years in jail, just because they met someone on Facebook. So you also just want to make sure you're not connecting with someone who is possibly a minor. Do not share your national ID details, your passport, your social media account passwords. There are people who, when they're in love, they're like, I have nothing to hide. You can just have my TikTok login details. And that time, it's not even that the TikTok password that they want. They know very well that possibly that TikTok password is also your bank password. And so it's a whole chain. Or even if they're just interested in your social media platforms, when you guys disagree and you guys break up, they can end up posting very nasty things on your social media, and no one will believe that it wasn't you. Another thing is when you have now decided that, okay, this is the love of my life, I finally want to meet with them, let's go on Java. Please make sure that you share with at least 3 people that you can trust your live location, and kindly don't meet in his or her house. Do not meet in a private place. Do not meet at night. Just try and go to a public place and share your live location. There's a feature on WhatsApp where you can share your live location up to 8 hours. People can be able to track you just in case things go left. And then I say, even if you want to be more secure about your safety, I see this nowadays that let's say you've decided you're going to Java, you can agree with your best friend or someone close to you to also just tag along, but as a quote unquote customer. So they're seated maybe 5 tables away from you, and they're just watching how this person is dealing with you, because you could meet with someone and suddenly you're pressed, you want to go to the bathroom, you come back, your drink is spiked. So these are some of the things that you're supposed to do just to make sure that you protect yourself. In the interest of time, let me move to the legal remedies that this has happened. I was just talking to someone that I was referred to, and it's a lady, and she was just saying how 2 years ago they had an altercation with the boyfriend and they broke up, and the boyfriend started saying very nasty things about this woman on Facebook. And well, she has screenshots and everything, and she was asking, can I get recourse? Can I possibly get the law and justice out of this, because there are some jobs I cannot get. They think maybe I'm a porn star, and there's nothing wrong with being a sex worker, but it's just about the image of a company, it's about the image of an organization. And probably you are there and your intimate photos were leaked online, or it wasn't even real intimate photos or videos. Nowadays there's deep fake, there's AI. You just need 250 images of someone to create a whole fake porn video, and it's shared virally online, and your whole reputation is damaged. Or it could be that you met with someone and they intoxicated you, and you woke up 36 hours later and realize that this person sexually assaulted you without your consent. How can you get recourse? Kenya has made a significant strides in the real name of being the Silicon Savannah of Africa. As we are growing technologically, such things like online gender-based violence also crop up. So there's the enactment of the Computer Cybercrime Misuse and Cybercrime Act that was enacted in 2018, is one very groundbreaking act in Kenya that guides everything to do with cybercrime and online fraud and all that. I do not want to bore you guys with the legalese of that. Let me just try and break it down. Don't start saying Section 32A or this. But just generally, the Cyber Act, one of the things it talks about is things like identity theft. So let's say when someone creates a fake account using your name. I don't know if you've seen this, especially with celebrities. Someone uses your photo to create a fake account on, let's say, Tinder, and then scams people, and then people now think it's Valarie. So that is an example of identity theft. So it provides for the act provides for identity, and it outlines elements that amount to identity theft. So that means if someone uses your information to pretend as if they are you and communicate like that on social media for their own benefit at your detriment, then if you're found liable for that offense, it leads to a fine of, let me just get the actual amount. It leads to a fine of 20 million or 10 years imprisonment. There's also issues such as cyber harassment. So I don't know if any of you has had this or has experienced this. So let's say you break up with someone, fine, you go both sides, and they're always sending you threatening messages. I will kill you. You'll never find someone like me. I will make sure you never get a job. I will make sure I'll spoil your name everywhere. All those kind of things amount to cyber harassment. And when it comes to cyber harassment, if you're if you're found guilty of that, it also attracts a fine of 20 million or 10 years imprisonment or both. And also, as the case is continuing in court, what happens is that you can seek interim orders for this person to stop doing that, because you may find that the case is continuing in court, but this person is continually causing you psychological harm, and all that. Another issue is around defamation. So let's say, and so this is where the men come in most times, because I've been in the litigation space, and I've seen that majority of cases around gender-based violence, usually the victim is the woman, and the man and the perpetrator is usually allegedly the male. So what this happens is that, let's say you break up with someone, and then this lady goes online and starts saying how, Indeje is abusive. Indeje used to hit me. I think you've just seen with the former Machako's first lady, there's videos, posters going on Instagram and everything of her saying how she left an abusive, in the previous whatever was abusive and all that. So you find that certain things like those, and I would like to encourage you guys to not be emotional when dealing with issues. I know that probably you are in an abusive relationship. Kindly, by the time you're saying that, I hope that you actually have evidence of that. You have filed that case, because if you say that just to have a personal vendetta with someone, to spoil their name, and they filed that case in court for defamation, so under slander or libel, then that attracts a fine of 200,000 or an imprisonment of 6 months. So the thing about defamation is that it only works if whatever they're saying is not true. So if you go on social media and say that this man or this woman used to hit me, used to beat me, that's actually true, then they cannot use that as a defense. Finally, I would like to talk about the reporting mechanism. So you're a victim and you're like, how? What are the step by step? So there are two things when it comes to online gender-based violence. There are criminal aspects to it, and then there is the civil aspects to it. So for example, when I talk about defamation, which is governed by the Defamation Act of Kenya, then first of all, you need to take a note of the time frames, right? So for defamation cases, you cannot bring up that case in court if it is more than 12 months. And for that, you just simply go to court and file a case. You pay the filing fees and all that. But I always encourage to use a lawyer if and when you can. For criminal matters, it's slightly different. When it's cyber issues, cyber-related crimes, there is the NC4, which is the committee that is specially constituted for investigating and handling and prosecuting cybercrime related matters. So the NC4 has an online website where you can file your case online, and they can take it up with the Office of the Data Protection. Or if it is purely criminal, so yes, it started online, but you met this someone and they actually hit you, or they raped you or something, then you go through the normal justice system where you go to the police, you register your case, you get an OB number, and then they do investigation, they take it to the DCI takes it to the ODPP, they open a case file, they charge the person, there's hearing and all that. There's also the data protection angle. So if this person is probably just sharing your number, there's this thing called doxing or quote unquote kusalimia. They just decide to share your phone number online or your personal details online, even without your consent, even intimate photos, that is still breach of personal data. Then you can go the data protection. There is the Office of Data Protection Commissioner, where it on their online portal also you can be able to file a complaint. You can provide evidence of the proposed data breach, and that is governed by the Data Protection Act, and it can also be able to be taken up. If it's a sexual offenses matter, that is still criminal. If it is anything to do with the fraud and identity fraud and all that, that is the Penal Code and the Cybercrime and Computer Misuse Act, etc. So to put this to a close to my presentation is that there is recourse. I know people usually say that, the police, like a video that was shared, I went to the police and I reported, and they said, why were you sharing your nude photos online? And so there's still a lot that needs to be done with just building the capacity of the justice system to be able to better handle these new and emerging cyber crimes. So thank you so much. And in this juncture, I think we are going to open it for plenary if there are any questions. Over to you, Neema.
Yes, thank you, Val. Thank you for explaining the legal issues, especially when it comes to, the use of online platforms. And what does the person do? What if you're a victim? We are never victims by choice. So I can see a question from Caroline Kitumbui. It says, can someone trail sites that can trail the site that your account has been or that your account has been? So I think I'll take this up. I think you're asking on if your site's account can be traced. So yes, it is possible for someone to track your account and depending on several factors. Now, there's something known as the browser's history. So someone gets gain of access of your device or browser, they can the website you've been able to visit. So there's somewhere, especially on your phone, there's a setting on your Google account where it's written history so that you can see there. Also, networking and monitoring is something that we've seen. That's why we say do not use public Wi-Fi for mobile transactions. So this is something that we've seen public Wi-Fi networks. In public Wi-Fi networks, a skilled attacker can be able to intercept your traffic and see which sites you've visited. So when you're using public Wi-Fi, you need to be really careful. Also, network administrators, if you're in school, if maybe you know somebody who's in school, administrators, sorry, can be able to monitor traffic. So they can see what sites you've been using because you are in their network administration system. So also there's the issue of your account logins, especially when you log in on Google, Facebook, and other accounts. Many of these services do show where you are and when you accessed the account. So this is something you need to know. That's why they usually say if an application asks you to turn your account location on, you do have the will and say to not turn it on. So this is always for your own safety. But some of these applications, such as the Uber, the Bolt that you use, maybe to go and see your loved one, you need to turn your location on so that the Uber the Uber guy can get to you. So that is something that can be done. So I can just tell you some ways that you can protect yourself because it is possible. You need to have strong passwords, especially when you are logging into these accounts. So you have a two-factor authentication. What do I mean? I mean you connect your devices. So if somebody gets into your phone, your laptop can alert you. If somebody gets into your laptop, your phone can alert you that way. Or if somebody accesses your phone or accesses any application, it comes as a notification through either through message or an email. So in case you don't have a smartphone or you have another phone that you're using, it can come as a message and it gives you an alert. So this is having two-factor authentication. Also, you have the will and say to clear your browser history and cookies regularly. So you just look at your history where you've visited. If there are sites that you don't want people to see, you clear your history. It's part of cyber hygiene, something that KICTANet really, really, really speaks about, whereby you maintain hygiene, ensure that if there's information that you don't want to be leaked, clear your history browser. Also, there's the use of avoid public Wi-Fi. It is necessary, but it can cost you a lot. So this is just for you to know. So check your account logins, see if there are unusual sign-ins. Some people tell you sign in a SIM, they go sign in their Google account. Then some information is historically stored in also your browser history. So this is something you really need to be keen about. Also in soft, you can install antiviruses for both your phones and your networks. I think I can give it back to Val as I take a breather. So back to you, Val, as you open the floor.
Okay, thank you, Neema. Thank you so much for those tips, which are very helpful, especially on that point of public Wi-Fi. I think it's something that we very easily like to enjoy, just free internet. So I don't know if there are any other questions or comments that our participants would like to share in the chat function or in the Q&A function. But even as we wait for questions, I would just like to add and say that this project, this webinar is being organized under the gender program at KICTANet. And so one of the things that we do, as Neema has said, is capacity building and providing training around issues like OGBV, online gender-based violence, tech-facilitated gender-based violence, whether it is training for trainers or just training you just like to know as a person, how can I protect myself online? Because you can never relate until it happens to you, and you realize that the repercussions are actually much dire than just any normal violence. So if you're interested in that, you can also just follow our websites, www.kictanet.or.ke. You can join our mailing list so that you can be notified when we have the next trainings, or if you'd like to have customized trainings around GBV, TFGBV, or GBV. We are also currently working on a number of projects that you can check us out soon. Like we are working on a lexicon on TFGBV in local languages. So as you know, Kenya has now, I've come to learn more than 60 languages. And so with that, these people are also coming online, and there's a lot of violence being propagated, but then the content moderators are trained for English and French and all those Western languages. And so they're not able to detect these hurtful or harmful speech online and be able to bring it down. So this is just like a dictionary of sorts of putting words together in the different local languages so that it can help guide us and even guide the platform, the social media platforms as well. And we're also working around the research and legal framework on facilitated gender-based violence, because as I said, there's still a huge gap. There's still a huge justice gap. Some of these terminologies are not in any legal frameworks. And so the justice system needs to catch up so that victims can get recourse. So this is just me passing time so that guys can ask questions. I can see Anthony says, I believe some digital relationships have started at work before. How does one then know that this digital relationship can be viable and worth considering? That's a very good question. I see there's someone who would like to speak.
Okay. Maybe
Yeah.
pick up the question. Um,
Hello, sorry.
I was thinking I can take up the question, yeah, the one for Anthony, because I've been doing quite some bit of research the last few days. And, absolutely, you're right. Digital relationships have not only started online, they have blossomed, if I can put it that way, into lasting connections. But while every relationship has its uniqueness, there are some key things that you can understand when it comes to, ensuring that your online relationship is viable and worth considering. So we are not against online relationships. That is something you should know. What we are doing is actually we are cyber cleaning, cyber hygiening, whereby you should take caution. As much as most have blossomed, we've as I've mentioned, not all have. Every relationship has its own uniqueness. So consistency, genuine communication is one thing you can look into. If this person is naturally open, frequent with you, it's a positive sign. Both parties, you and them, should be consistent and also keep the communication flowing. So you'll realize that sometimes when you get into a communication with someone, it just goes off, they ghost you for 2 weeks and then come back. So you're like, what is happening? So you should have at least consistent communication with the person, transparency and honesty. As much as I've spoke about catfishing, as I've spoke about romance scammers, there is no honesty when it comes to that. So your partner, your trustworthy partner, will not shy away from giving you details about life. They are open, their intentions are open, their background, they're open, challenges they face is open. So if someone consistently avoids answering you, that is a caution. Effort to build trust. Do they really want you? Do they really want the relationship? Are they healthy? Is it a healthy one? Or are you always fighting? So there are certain things that you just look into. Then if they do not respect boundaries, that is also another thing. They do not respect time, personal space. if they act as if they're pushing, so that is a romantic scammer. So they're always pushing in order to get you. And then trust your gut. At the end of the day, your instincts are your best guide. Thank you, Val.
Thank you, Neema. I couldn't agree more. And maybe just to add to that is that love is a very complex thing, or I don't know if it is we humans that make it complicated. So I don't know if I'm the right person to talk about matters of the heart, but maybe what I can just say is just looking at it from just how you would engage someone, anyone, a friend, a colleague, etc. How would you accord trust to this person? So do not have soft spots when it comes to romantic relationships. So just how you will engage with someone, stranger danger, you meet someone and 2 + 2 is not coming to 4, is the same criteria you're supposed to be using when meeting someone online. You don't know this person. They could possibly be a criminal. They could possibly be anything. And so I always say, let it start from they are guilty until proven innocent, especially with online engagement. Have your doubt until they can prove otherwise. And another thing is being open. Make sure that someone is always knowing who you, at least one person, just in case for safety reasons. And also not just for safety reasons, but also to be your sounding board, because sometimes again emotion clouds judgment and you find that you're not able to make sound decisions. I can see the representative of boy child is here and has their camera on, David Indeje. So I don't know if you also have comments. Please feel free, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Valarie. Thank you, Neema. My name is David Indeje. I also work with Neema at the communications KICTANet. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible enough?
Maybe try speaking up more. Yeah,
Oh,
your sound is a bit stifled.
Okay, thank you. I think now I'm okay. So number one, I thought I'll be surprised having red flowers on you ladies. But something else that I wanted maybe to contribute to this discussion is that love is an emotional thing. And when it comes to things like online dating or online relationships, in as much as there is the pros and the cons, the advantages and disadvantages, because I do remember when I used to grow up before the digital age, we used to be very, very, very afraid of long distance relationships. But now with internet, it has made even things even more easier for that. But for me, I believe it is also a discussion that needs to look at different people's personalities. We have the extroverts, introverts, and when you look at especially people who are introverts in this case, they find recourse in online relationships and they're afraid of face-to-face relationships. But again, for me, I agree that there's need for trust and authenticity in this creation of virtual bonds so that at least one can be able to establish real connections and relationships in the digital realm. But in our case, with if we have to refer back to last year, 2024, when we had issues around femicide and how they were created, you look at, they were about people having created already a bond, but now the bond ended in a tragic way. Even the stories that we read today, somebody, like the biggest story I read this week was a girl who had to commit suicide by jumping from a story building to her death because they had a miscommunication or a misunderstanding with the boyfriend. Then again, it really begs the question, face to face or virtual. But for me, key things that I would maybe appeal or urge is building trust and authenticity. One needs to build trust, although I know trust has to be earned over time. There is need for transparency and honesty for any person who would want to seek or find love in the digital space. And then I agree, we need to overcome anonymity. But nowadays, from a boy child's perspective, nowadays we've seen most ladies who are posting or sharing their images on whichever platform, be it on X, be it on meta platforms, that is Threads, Instagram, and any other. Their biggest cry for attention is, I am single, who will fall in love with me? So I'm always like, okay, are they luring me to that? And it's not that they are anonymous, they are actual people, their profiles are complete. But when you see the kind of conversation that they are trying to chase on their platforms, how do you address that? I'm just trying to think through the lens of a woman trying to lure me by saying I'm single, I'm this age, and I'm looking for love. And then another thing that I believe can be useful for people in this space is consistency in communication and perhaps shared experiences, because anything online is all about shared values, shared experiences, shared connections, so that there is no misunderstanding at the end of the day. But I believe in terms of secure things, I had Neema also speak around platforms, but for me, I'm also looking at, can we have secure attachments online? Can we think of being anxious, having an anxious attachment online, avoidant attachment within the same space? And how are our online behavior patterns? I can have a very perfect online behavior, which is so different from my on-site behavior, which is physical, if at all I was to date you face to face. And how can we maybe mitigate such? Because my personality online is totally different from my personality in the real life. Do we have a solution to this? And how can we also address that aspect of long distance relationship in the digital era, whereby we have romantic partnerships, partners in separated through locations or separated by work, etc., etc. These are some of the things that keep on emerging in my mind. Back to you, team ladies.
Thank you so much, David, for those insightful remarks. And I mean, saying anything to add to that will be watering it down. And those are very helpful nuggets. So I can see that we only have 2 minutes to go. And maybe just from my end is to end by saying this. I've really been pressed to say this. There's this example of online scamming that is an organized crime. Someone dates you and you even meet physically. They will take you on private jets. They will they'll pay for you rent or even buy you property. But it's all part of a Ponzi scheme. They are building the trust base. And then before you know it, finally, they decide to ask you for even 2 million Kenyan shillings. But they've been investing, quote unquote, even with 300,000 shillings. So if someone also is being too good too quickly and it's not adding up, just also take a step back. I would like to give it to Neema to give the closing remarks as we close this webinar.
Thank you so much, Valarie. Thank you so much, Ndeje, for your insights. And just to add a bit, we had the way forward. We need to always promote awareness. Keep spreading the word, the risk of social media. Do not let your family members get into it. Speak to each other. Workshops, as Valarie has mentioned, KICTANet, we do have diversity of workshops. We also have cybersecurity trainings that we do. We also have the upcoming Kenya School of Internet Governance, which is part of the African Policy Week that is coming up. So be on the alert on our platforms. This is whereby you learn lots about the internet, not only learn how to keep yourself safe, but also learning how to, avoid these scammers. Now, something that KICTANet is doing is tracking. We are tracking online gender-based violence cases. So we are highly updated. We are staying updated, and these cases are being tracked across Africa. And we are looking into the AIs, deep fakes. So staying updated to us is really important. collaborate, talk to us, speak to us, join the mailing list, and you will be part of the system. What I can end by saying is love is a beautiful thing, and if it comes, it comes. Thank you so much, Valarie. Thank you all for listening. Asanteni sana.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Goodbye. For all questions that were not addressed, we'll try to address them in the next webinar.